Marhaba ya jama'. Yes, there is a giant tree with sparkly things on it and baubles and stuff sitting next to me. And yes, I happen to be Muslim. Very observant of you. We will deal with that in another video. But today I am here to talk about arranged marriages, but like modern arranged marriages. Screaming, oh! Yes, the arranged marriage. When I first came to Jordan, as I have said in many videos, I was surprised by how often people discuss marriages and how often people get married. It is like the hot topic always. Been here for 5 years, it's still the hot topic. Who's getting married and when they're getting married and who they're getting married to, and yeah, that's basically it. Who's getting divorced as well. But the thing that was most surprising wasn't necessarily that everyone was getting married all the time. It's that people were having arranged marriages. And coming from my background and my very, very, very limited knowledge of the Middle East, of Islam, of arranged marriages in general, I would immediately, and for a long time, immediately thought of runaway brides, child brides, women stuck in miserable marriages that they don't want to be in, and all of these things. And actually, it's not just a stereotype, because it's kind of built, every stereotype has some kind of element of truth in it somewhere. And I did know a girl who got trapped into an arranged marriage when she was at college, and she was really, really young. She was like 18 or something. And she ran away from her family and all the rest of it. So I actually knew about somebody that had been in one of these mysterious arranged marriages. And so yeah, when I came here and people were getting arranged marriages, or what they call traditional marriages, I was like, oh my God, this is like gnarly. The only thing I knew about an arranged marriage was that it's miserable and like they're really unhappy marriages. But you also hear about unhappy organic marriages as well. So, perspective, I don't know. So yeah, marriage is on everyone's lips, and traditional marriage is very much a thing here in the Middle East generally, not just in Jordan. It's across many, many different cultures. It is still a practice that happens today. But let's get something clear. Arranged marriages aren't the only way that people get married. People get married because they've fallen in love with someone and they want to get married to them, and it's all, very kind of organic, like I said. But that doesn't mean that the traditional marriages have completely gone. There are still people who want to get traditionally married, and they don't want to deal with the whole courting process, and they don't want to deal with finding the right person and, down the line finding out that you've got the wrong values, or you've got like that you're not compatible in some way. They want somebody to kind of fit them based on compatibility, matchmaking. But the thing that was the most shocking, there are young people today who might not strike you as being particularly religious, or might not strike you as being particularly traditional. They might have very kind of Western values, but whether they're religious or they're not religious or whatever it is, it surprises me when youth in general go to their parents or their mother and say, I want you to match me in a traditional marriage. So yeah, when I found out that there are people who want to get married traditionally, it's their choice, it was kind of like, oh, I've been living a lie. And I know it's not just me coming from my Western background and all the rest of it that can find this kind of confusing. I know a lot of people here are like, why would you want to? People who have grown up in the culture and things are like, why would you want to get married traditionally? Like, different people have different opinions on it. Not everyone would go for that. It's just interesting because I would just expect that no one would ever want that. But I'm sure that every mother, upon hearing the words from their son or daughter that they want them to match them up with someone, they kind of like wriggle their butts like a hen, all excited, like, oh, I've been waiting for this moment to set you up. It hands all of that kind of, it hands so much responsibility over to the parent to help find their person that's going to stick with them for the rest of their lives. So it just creates such a different dynamic. And if you've made it this far and you still don't know what a traditional marriage is, I will explain it to you. A traditional marriage is when a bride and a groom are chosen by a third party, essentially, or maybe more than one third party. And that might be an actual khotbah, I think it's called, which is like a matchmaker. But perhaps more commonly, it would be the third party would be either the mother or a close female relative of the bride and the groom. Not that the bride and the groom are related. I mean, like, the bride's relative and the groom's relative. So the point of the arranged traditional marriage is to remove any haram elements from the relationship. So there are no possibilities of overstepping any marks between, male and female relations before marriage. keeps everything halal. And secondly, it removes any kind of emotional things that might get in the way of making a proper match between two people, such as love goggles, like it's an obvious one. So the pair are matched on more practical things like their values, their religiosity, their work positions even, like it's just different practical factors that will say whether or not these two people are compatible in life. So while it might seem strange to marry somebody that you don't love or that you don't know very well, these marriages seem to work just as well as other marriages, because both people, bride and groom, are coming on the same page. They know where each other stands. They've kind of sorted out all of those difficult bits that tend to jump up on you when you've had a more organic relationship, when you've fallen in love with the person before you've worked out how many kids you want or where you want to live in the world or different things like that. So all of those practical things are kind of sorted out, but that seems to kind of ease the way for falling in love later on, like while you're married. So how does one find a bride or a groom the traditional way? Well, before, I'm sure that people met through families, through gatherings, through weddings and things like that. Today, we've got all of that, but with the added essence of Facebook. And I know that there's more than one person who has initiated a traditional marriage process through Facebook messages, which is very strange to me. So if you know that a mama is looking for somebody for their son or their daughter, someone else might tell them, oh, by the way, I know this girl and she's looking as well. They might, it might be through a network of people. It might be that you've seen somebody that you think is really beautiful and you will try and get your mother or your matchmaker or whoever it is to kind of intercept somehow on your behalf. It happens in a whole variety of ways, and it always feels quite alien when you kind of watch this unfolding. It's very strange to approach a stranger and be like, yeah, we want you for marriage. So the mama or the khutbah or whoever will make contact in some way with the bride. It doesn't happen the other way round. So the bride doesn't go out looking for a groom. The groom looks for the bride. And she ensures that the girl is single, that she's open for marriage, that she's finished their studies. So later the bride will invite the groom's mother over to have an official meeting between the women, the immediate women. So the mothers will meet, maybe the sisters if they are there. And that's kind of the process where they kind of break the ice, they get to know each other properly, they ask deeper questions. They get to know the personalities of the families, if they're compatible, the personality of the bride. And of course, it is quite a nerve-wracking experience for the bride because she's basically being vetted by strange women that she's never met. Or maybe she has met them, but it's still strangers. But usually, if you're coming to the bride's house, you already have an interest, you already are convinced in some way, so it's not, it's not terrible. So round 3 is when the groom visits, and this is when things get exciting. This is like when things are definitely taking a step in the right direction. Both families are happy so far, and sometimes this is the first time that the groom has met the bride. Sometimes, they've already kind of seen each other from afar, or they already know each other from work or whatever it is, but sometimes it is the first time that they've seen each other. So it's exciting. This is around the time that the two families will go away and start asking about that family. So they will find anyone that's from the region or the town or wherever that family is from. They'll ask people who they know already that live there. Jordanians and Arabs have got like networks. They know people, Yeah, this is the period when they will go and they will ask after the two people and make sure that there's no discrepancies, that their reputations are good, and that it's recommended and things like that. And then after that, that's when they take the next step. And sometimes this is when they will read Al-Fatiha, which is the opening verse of the Quran, and it's how you mark anything important, any important life step that happens. It's a kind of promise when they both read it together. It's a promise that we have agreed that we want to get married in the future. And sometimes they have a long engagement period and they want to really get to know each other and make sure that they're making the right decision. Sometimes they'll go and they'll write the marriage contract the next day or the next week or something. All of that depends on different people. That's the process. That's the traditional marriage. And I still think that it's really beautiful. I haven't personally seen anyone here in Jordan being forced into a marriage that they weren't happy with. I'm sure it does happen. But I just wanted to share this with you, whatever your opinion is on it. But I thought that it's a nice It's a nice thing to talk about because I think that it's still romantic in its own way. And I just think it's so interesting that youth still wants to do that. I love that. So that's my video. And I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that I was able to share something new with you guys. I hope that none of my information was wrong. If it was, I know that you will correct me. Yalla, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Ma salama.